You're listening to the Real Estate Runway Podcast, powered by Quattro Capital, where we are all about alternative business and investment strategies to help you amplify life and maximize wealth. Here's your host, the recovering engineer turned multifamily investor, Chad Sutton.
All right, Real Estate Runway family. Today, we're going to have Russ Morgan on the show. So Russ is the founder of Wealth Without Wall Street, a group that's been around since around the 2008 timeframe. And they've just done some incredible stuff, man. They have this amazing community where like-minded people who are trying to create more passive income, not just from real estate, but from any opportunity, small businesses, franchises, real estate, you name it, land flipping. There's so many like-minded people. I recommend you reach out, check it out. Listen to this guy, listen to the knowledge he has, listen to what he's built. Such a giver. And we're going to talk a little bit about some of the things he's done right and wrong. And this is coming from the lens of someone who invests in all sorts of things, not just real estate for passive income. So if you get any value out of this episode, we'd really appreciate a 5-star review and a thoughtful comment. It's the only way we can grow the show and reach more people just like you to provide that same value exchange. If you want to visit us on social media, we're on all the major socials at Team Quattro Capital, one word, no special characters, or just visit us at thequattroway.com. Any of our partners who you see on there, you can find them on the socials as well via that website. And if you want to apply to be on the show, visit us at thequattroway.com/podcast. We'd love to have you. And if you want to reach out and just give us a topic request or say hello, hit us in the comments or reach us at podcast@thequattroway.com. So without further ado, let's get right on into today's episode. All right. Welcome to another episode of the Real Estate Runway Podcast. I'm your host, Chad Sutton. We are powered by Quattro Capital here on the show. And I've got a special guest with me today, Mr. Russ Morgan, founder of Wealth Without Wall Street. Russ, welcome to the show. How you doing, my friend?
Thank you for having me on. Glad to be here.
Wealth Without Wall Street, that has quite the ring to it. And I really want to get into that. But before we get into that, tell me what made Russ Morgan Russ Morgan? What did you do before that? What got you into starting such a company? And what is your prior life experiences brought you to today?
I did all the wrong things is what I did, man. There's a joke in our community about a lot of that stuff. So I actually started in the financial space. I was Wall Street. I was a certified financial planner for a number of years. And it wasn't until the market crashed that I realized that maybe I was not the financial expert that I assumed I had been. And it led me to a deep journey to dig down and to reach for opportunities that had nothing to do with Wall Street. And it was for me personally. And as I did that, I covered a lot of different things that opened up doors. And I was mentoring as a client, my current business partner. And after about 5 years in the mortgage space, being my client, he decided to come join me. And we started Wealth Without Wall Street back in 2015 and have been on the journey of trying to teach other people what we've been learning and free as many people we can from the rat race.
Yeah, I love that. And so let's get into Wealth Without Wall Street. So what is the company? Why did you found it? What all services are you offering to people out there today in the passive income space? Let's just kind of go tops down from that perspective.
Yeah, totally. Appreciate you giving us the platform. I love what you're doing. And I've been digging through not only your podcast, but obviously the investment angle that you guys have. We too are passive investors as well as active investors. And the multifamily space is something that we have invested in personally and have seen a lot of benefit out of that, both from the income, but also from the depreciation. So kudos to you guys for building such an amazing, not only following, but track record in this space. Wealth Without Wall Street is a movement. It's really people who want to become financially free, get there faster without investing things that they don't understand and that they can't touch, like most of the assets that they've been invested in through their 401ks and IRAs and so forth and so on. So we help people who want to become financially free faster. We show them how to become better investors. That's them understanding who they are as an investor. We help them build a personal cash flow system. So we built a whole passive income operating system that helps people turn active income into passive income. And along the way, we get them in community with other people, because the reality is that you need to be in a group of people that your goal behavior is their normal behavior. And when that happens, you start to see a lot of mindset shifts, but also you automatically start seeing different things that you're doing and focusing on that you weren't before.
You know, that's just incredible. And I couldn't agree more. I mean, if I think someone once told me you're the sum average of the 5 people you hang around with the most. And if 4 of those 5 people are stuck in the financial ways you're trying to get out of, and also the mindset and telling you what you're doing is not the way and that's so wrong and you're just going to lose money and all that. How do you think you're going to stick with it? So tell me a little more about the community that you've built and in what ways this helps the individual become the investor that they're trying to be.
Great question. Well, one, just backstory to this, we really fell into this blindly. We built a community for our existing client base. This is 4.5 years ago. And we were really just trying to get them to be able to share ideas and information together. Had no idea that it was going to blossom into a 7,000 person group that ultimately has led to even smaller mastermind groups within it. Our community not only has content, right? I mean, every website and app out there has content, but really is focused specifically on building passive income. And so we have people who are sharing ways to do that. And so we're really agnostic to the type. And we share our personal passive income report every single month, both on our podcast, YouTube page, and our website. And if you look at it, you're like, Russ, man, you guys invest in basically everything. And it's mostly because I like getting involved in lots of different deals and I get an opportunity to share it. But also it gives me a chance to help those people who are not built like me. Because one of the things I learned, Chad, along the way is that my investor DNA is different than yours. And it's different than the person listening to this. And we all see the world from our own unique perspective, but not all deals are created for that. So if you're not built to be a very passive investor because you see the world more hands-on, then you probably won't invest in passive things. But doesn't mean you can't find deals that can create passive income. We've just bought businesses and put in managers and operators and allowed those businesses to produce passive income. But we were actively involved in the acquisition of them and even currently in management structure. So our community kind of consists of a blend of people from all different walks of life who really have the same goal. We have a group who's trying to get to 100% of passive income over their monthly expenses. And we have a group that's focused to get to 200%. And clearly in that group, we're thinking generationally and the opportunities that exist for that.
Yeah, that's incredible, man. And I think the community, just like, forget being the sum average of the people you're around, embody the person you're trying to be. And so like just the network that you're talking about here, if that's you, if your avatar is, hey, I'm an active kind of guy, I want to have my hands on something, or girl, right? I want to have my hands on to something. Maybe I want to go buy businesses and I want to learn how to add value to those businesses and put new management in place and mechanisms to help it scale and all that so that it gives me that passive income of 200% of my living expenses and more and beyond. How best to do that except being around someone who knows how to do that, being around a group who is doing just what you're doing. It's just incredible. Pivoting to the other thing you said you have an operating, I think you said, mechanism that helps people say, hey, I've got active income. And so maybe you're, whatever you are, however you're awesome in life, y'all, where you can turn your time into good money, right? You have cash. So you have a system of taking whatever cash flow someone has that's active and over time turning it into passive income for them. Do you care to elaborate on that a little bit and what that entails?
Well, we fell into this by failing first, right? Like trying to figure out for ourselves, how do we make things automated? Not automate for efficiency, but automate for perfection. And there's so much in our stage of life, Lisa, where you're listening to this at, but I'm in my mid 40s. I got 4 kids. I'm running a number of different businesses. My kids are involved in everything you can think of. And the hardest thing for me is to focus on the task at hand. And you would think that we would all be focused on becoming financially free, but we know that unfortunately, even though it's important, it doesn't always meet the urgent test. And so I was falling into that as well. And I was trying to find a way where I would keep getting the excess cash that kept getting stuck in different places. It was getting stuck in my checking accounts. It got stuck in my infinite banking system. It wasn't being turned into passive income at the rate that I would have wanted it to. And so I kept working to figure out what's a process in which I can automate this to where at the very beginning of the month, as long as I put money in, everything else waterfalls from that point. And so we just started doing this. And then ultimately one of our mentors was looking at my little random diagram and he says, what is this? And I was like, it's just the process in which I flow money to make sure that all the cash flow I'm making is going ultimately into the assets and accounts that I want it to go into. They said, what do you call that? I was like, I don't call it anything. He goes, man, that's your passive income operating system. Now, that's the reason why this guy's the CEO of a publicly traded company. He sees things like that. I don't. But whenever he pointed that out to me, I was like, oh, I never thought about that. But that's pretty cool to think about. That's what really it is. It's just this operating system that's running behind the scenes, just like right now we're listening to this or watching this on some sort of potential operating system. And it's happening. And while we are able to take income and figure out ways to not get it stuck in accounts and then automate the way that it goes out into these different areas. And if you're interested, I know we've talked about this, but you can go to whatswhatwallstreet.com/PIOS. We actually have an ebook and you can get all the details on it.
Yeah, fantastic, folks. And as always, that link will be right in the show notes, so no worries there. And so scroll down and click that and take a look at what these guys have put together, because I'm telling you, it's going to help you in your journey. Let's take it a step further. You mentioned that you guys share your personal passive income statements monthly and have done so for a number of years. Tell me about that. Why do you do that? Why is it important to your community?
Yeah. One, it created accountability, right? Like I just behind the scene, very transparent. When I first heard, we were at an event and there was these two guys we were talking to and I had no idea who they were. And I was asking them questions about their life and the kind of work they did. And they were talking about their passive incomes that they were building. And they told me that they had a podcast where they talked about it and where they posted it on their website. And I thought, man, that's pretty cool. And I told my business partner on the way back from Philadelphia where we were at this event, I said, I want to do that. He goes, bro, we don't really have much passive income. I was like, exactly. Like, that's exactly why we need to do this. Like, we need to be able to lead from the front. And as a podcast host, man, I know you interview people all the time. And there's a lot of people who make a lot of money talking about things. Not all of them, though, make money doing the things that they're talking about. And I wanted to make sure that we always led from the front, that we always ate our dog food, that we were the ones that were passive income greater than monthly expenses was the mission of our company. Then I wanted it to be the focal point and have accountability. And there's a saying out there, one of my mentors has, he says, what you track grows, but what you track and report on grows exponentially. And what I saw is that the first month that we posted that report back in 2020, it was $2,447 that month. Now, for some people, that's a lot, but for most of your listeners, that's nothing, right? So we wanted to figure out how could we build that? And we've hit months over 60,000 a month. We typically average somewhere between 45 and 55 a month. Our goal is to get it to 200,000 a month. And I just want to keep talking about it. I want to keep putting that out there because I know that in my subconscious, I'm going to focus on things that are going to help me get closer to that instead of further away.
It's just brilliant. I mean, it's your own level of accountability. I love what you said there. Eat your own dog food. I've never heard that before, but that makes a lot of sense, right? It's like there's a lot of people peddling, this is how you get rich, or this is how you get wealthy, or this is the way to do it. And like you said, unfortunately, some of them only sell the product, don't even know how to do it in reality. So that's just incredible. And so it leads me to the next question. Looking at that, you guys invest in everything, right? And so you've got some money in all sorts of things. And so Russ, if I were to ask you, having the landscape and understanding, maybe not being an expert in one thing, but very competent in a lot of different things, where do you put your money and why, and how does it benefit? I'm just curious where you're finding yield and where you choose to invest your dollars for passive.
Totally. I appreciate the question. I'm going to give preface to this that please don't follow this advice just because I'm doing it. It's not a fit for you. Financial advice is garbage and should be treated as such. And I say that because it comes from the experience and the opinion of the person giving it. And that doesn't mean it applies to you. So for me, people ask me all the time, you invest in lots of different things. What's the thing that you enjoy the most? Well, there's things that I enjoy the most that make the least, but the things that are finding yield that you're talking about right now, man, we have a land flipping business that is crazy. And when I say land flipping, some people think, oh, like I flip houses or I flipped houses before I started investing in multifamily or whatever. Well, we buy raw tracts of land from people who don't want them, turn around and sell them on owner finance terms to a retail buyer, typically on a car note payment over the next 5 to 6 years. And we've been doing that for about 3 years now. It is one of the most fantastic business models out there. Yields are about 72% on the deals that we're doing. And the problem is it's just hard to get tons and tons of money into it. So the typical property we're buying is somewhere between $2,000 and $10,000. we make 72% on that, but you have to buy that in bulk and it's hard to buy it. So it takes a little bit. So we've been doing that for a while, and we've built a team that actually does it for us now, which is amazing. So it's super hands off at this point, but it produces almost $25,000 a month in note income. And the most beautiful part to this business, Chad, is that, I hate to say it this way, it's going to come out the wrong way, but I'm going to tell you, the best day for me is when our team calls us and says, hey, we had a default. Like, that's a good day for me, by the way, because now my cost basis just dropped on that property because we're going to go out. It's a land contract. We're going to go back and redo the deal, and it's just going to multiply our return.
It makes a tremendous amount of sense. So folks, we've had some people on here talking about land flipping and land banking as well. And that's, you go back and listen to those episodes, I think probably 4 or 5, 7 episodes ago. Don't quote me on here, but that's an interesting perspective. And so let's take it a step further before we get to our Quattro questions that I've got to run through you before we leave. There's a lot of fear out there right now, Russ. And you've been around a minute, right? And I know some of the people you run with, I mean, all of y'all have been around for a minute. And we're in some very interesting times right now. And what that generates is uncertainty and fear in the minds of young, inexperienced investors. And hell, even some very seasoned individuals are questioning what's going on in the world right now. Without us giving a dissertation on everything that is going on, we can mention some of it. But what are your thoughts on the current investing landscape? Do you see danger ahead? And how do you get around the fear that the world is trying to pump into your mindset right now?
Yeah, well, it exists. It is definitely present. And I think we all tend to believe that we're living in the worst environment, and you go back 30 years and that person believes they were living in the worst environment in 30 years and 30. I don't know. Is this the time, right? Is this when everything goes down that we've been told it's going to go down for 200 something? Maybe it is. But also I follow the logic that there's no good or bad news. There's just news. It's how you're prepared for the news, whether it's good or bad for you. And I think you have to try to understand from a macro perspective what may be happening as much as we can, right? It's not like I'm not sitting behind the closed doors where the real conversations are happening, right? We're weeks, months, even years behind the real information. And we all can watch the movies after the fact and go, oh yeah, see, that's what happened. But most of us don't have that benefit. Biggest obstacle keeping people from being financially free, lack of access to cash. So when I'm talking to people, I'm saying, where's your access to cash? Have you stored it into an account that you can't touch? What are going to be the restrictions? What are going to be the hindrance that's going to keep you from getting access to the money if and when you need it? Because opportunities are going to come at 1,000 miles an hour. And as they come, you got to be prepared to take action. If you don't have the ability to take action, whether you had a line of credit and that line of credit was reduced or eliminated because the banks went out of business, or you had money in qualified plans and the restrictions and penalties behind that were prohibitive, whatever it may be, or you haven't educated yourself on what a real opportunity looks like. That's fearful. I think too oftentimes people are dependent upon 100% of someone else's efforts in order to produce the return. Now, you hear me, I tell you, I'm a passive investor. I love passively investing, but I'm going to be super active on the front end to understand the operator and the deals that they're getting involved in. And how can I lose 100% of my money? I want to know everything I can know about the thing before I get into it. So allows me to better understand and better ask questions. Now, did I always do that? No. Have I been involved in a $1 billion Ponzi scheme and been taken? Yes, I have. I've got the arrows in my back. And I learned, and unfortunately, I do my best to share those with other people from time to time so that they don't have to have the same experiences. But the long story short is, one, don't listen to all the noise, because news is sensationalized. It's intended to get a rise out of us, increase our heart rate, which doesn't make us any more effective as investors. Figure out how to become a better investor. One, know who you are as an investor. Understand what deals that you can control. The more deals and more influence you can have over the return, the less the risk.
Yeah, that's brilliant. You said a couple of things there that I think I'll touch on. One of them is you're going to receive the news how you're programmed to receive it. And 0% of the time has someone spent hours and days in front of a news channel watching good news. right? So just let that soak in. Good news doesn't give ratings. There's even some stations who will spend like the last 2 minutes of their airtime saying, hey, this good thing happened today after all this bad stuff. And so remember that as news is programmed to rise controversy and increase your heart rate, like you mentioned. And I think you mentioned something else is that there's really no bad time to invest, right? There's poor investments and there's not doing your diligence and getting into something improperly, but it's never too late and it's never a bad time to invest. You have to adjust your criteria a little bit. Love that you said that. Russ, before we go, I've got a couple of questions, Quattro 4, so got to run those through you. Do you mind? All right. First one, what is your superpower in life or business and how does it serve you?
Superpower. As much as I would like to say I have a superpower, I have a superpower, but they do call me on my podcast in our community, the idea guy. And it's not that I know that you have an engineering background. Like my culture index for innovation or ingenuity is really low. Like I create 0 things that never existed, but I do like to innovate over things that have been created. So if I have a superpower, it's seeing an angle that someone else has created and coming up with 2 or 3 other ideas for it of how that could be done differently or improved. Maybe I'm very critical. Maybe that's what my wife would say.
I think that's incredible. And just, I can speak on this because I have been that creative, innovative guy. And I've also created things that didn't exist before in my prior life where I was an engineer. What I'll tell you is the creator of a thing very rarely is the one that gets rich off of it. It's the innovator and the executor who actually gets rich off of it. Think about the wheel. The caveman that invented the wheel did not get any financial benefit off of it. He made his life better. But the guy who started Bridgestone and has made one of the best tires in the world has gotten pretty rich off of it. All he did was innovate on one of the oldest inventions known to me. So I had to throw that out there real quick. Okay. Second one. What is your biggest failure to date and what'd you learn from it? Could be life or business, your choice.
Well, I didn't even know that this was a question. I guess I wouldn't have mentioned it. I did lead myself and 5 other investors into a $1 billion Ponzi scheme. And I learned a lot of lessons. I actually wrote an ebook for our passive income mastermind just specifically on this. I won't go through all of them. But one of the biggest ones for me was trust but verify. There's a lot of times where we have got to know people and they've entered into our trust sphere. And with that trust, I tend to be very trusting. And with that, I lack the due diligence to follow through and verify the things that I was being told, which would have saved me a lot of money and a lot of shame because I never want to go to anybody and tell them that, hey, not only did we lose our investment, but here's why we lost our investment. And that was definitely one.
And folks, I think that part of the lesson here is don't be afraid to fail. Now, do your diligence, trust but verify. And if you don't, that will eventually catch up with you. But listen to people like Russ who've learned that. Listen to people like me who've learned that. I've had blunders as well. And so sometimes it takes the blunder for you to realize the lesson and have the scar, but success leaves clues. Listen to the lessons we're laying down here and don't let that be you because you're not going to get them all right, but you don't have to get them catastrophically wrong either if you follow the lessons that others have done. Love that, man. Love it. Well, getting into question number 3, we love to promote podcasts, ebooks, things like that on here. If you could give the listeners one place to go to get embedded in your community or look at a piece of content or a podcast, where would you send them?
Thank you for doing that. If you go to wealthwithoutwallstreet.com/real estate runway, we actually have built in probably our top 3 or 4 things that people ask us for on that page for you. And you can engage with our brand in any shape or form. Grateful to do it. Thank you so much for giving us the opportunity to share that, Chad.
Absolutely. And as usual, folks, scroll on down in whatever modality you're listening to this in. And for your clicking pleasure, that link will be right there for you. So check it out. And last thing, one of our 4 pillars here at Quattro is philanthropy, Russ. People, property, profits, then philanthropy, taking care of people, bringing it back full circle. I'd love to give our guests an opportunity to mention their philanthropic heart, whatever it is you do with your money, time, talents, efforts, whatever it is to give back to this world. And you'd be surprised. We actually have reports of people going and joining you on that endeavor via this show. What would that be for you? How do you give back?
Yeah. What an amazing thing. I love that. We're told to not let the left hand know what the right hand is doing. But since you asked the question, I'll share. So I'm actually sitting in my office is in an apartment above my garage. We built out this apartment specifically for a program called the Fellows Initiative. I don't know if you've ever heard of that, but it's a program for college students who graduate and are not thinking about going into the ministry, but really want to be able to pursue their Christian faith in the workplace. And they need a host family as they go through different discipleship programs and trainings in this year program. And so we built this space out specifically to host those fellows. That's a big one for us. It's personal because it allows us to have life on life ministry. We support missionaries across the world that are involved in our church and other things.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing your heart there. I appreciate that, Russ. Well, it's been a pleasure having you on the show. I can't wait to see how our community engages with yours and hopefully finds some additional mentorship and opportunities to grow that passive income. That's what we're all after, is how do we stop trading time for money? Thank you for coming on and sharing not only your heart, but your knowledge, and hope to have you back soon.
Thank
Russ.
you for having me.
All right, everyone. This has been another episode of the Real Estate Runway Podcast. Until next time, over and out. Folks, I hope you enjoyed that episode today. Russ is just a powerhouse in the industry, and he's actually connected with a lot of other guests that you would have listened to on the show here today. So thanks, Russ, for coming on. Hope to have you on again soon. And folks, if you get any value out of this show, please leave us a 5-star review and thoughtful comment. They're worth their weight in gold, and it's the only way we reach more people like you and provide value. If you want to follow us on social media, Team Quattro Capital, one word, no special characters, on all the major socials, or visit us at thequattroway.com. All of our partners also are on the socials personally if you want to follow one or multiple of us. Again, if you want to apply to be on the show, please visit us at thequattroway.com/podcast. And if you want to send us an email, topic request, or anything like that, hit us in the comments or email us at podcast@thequattroway.com. Until next time, this has been another episode of the Real Estate Runway Podcast. See you for now.
We hope this episode was insightful and brought value to your day. If so, please be awesome and leave us a 5-star review. Find out how Team Quattro can help you at thequattroway.com. Until next time, this is the Real Estate Runway Podcast.